I was standing outside the wedding venue, holding an invitation with my own name on it, when my son looked me in the eye and said, "Please don't come in." Not quietly, not privately, but right there, in front of his friends, his future in-laws, and a line of strangers who turned to stare at me. I felt their eyes. I heard the whispers. And my son, the boy I raised alone, didn't even flinch. "Mom," he said, lowering his voice just enough to sound polite. "It's better this way." Better for who? I nodded, because I didn't trust my voice, because I refused to break. Not here. Not in front of people who had no idea what I had sacrificed for that moment. I stepped back, slowly, gracefully, like I wasn't being pushed out of my own child's life. And then, I turned around, not to leave, but to walk to my car parked across the street. Because if I wasn't allowed inside, I would still be there, just unseen. The venue was beautiful. Of course it was. A white estate with tall glass windows, wrapped in soft lights that shimmered even in the afternoon sun. Fresh flowers lined the entrance. Roses, orchids, the kind that cost more than I used to spend on groceries for a month. Guests arrived in luxury cars, men in tailored suits, women in elegant dresses that flowed like water. Laughter filled the air. Champagne glasses clinked. Everything looked perfect. And I sat in my old car across the street, watching it all unfold through the windshield. I had worn my best dress. Simple, clean, light blue. I had even gotten my hair done that morning. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I wanted my son to look at me just once and feel proud. Instead, he looked at me like I didn't belong, like I was something inconvenient, something that needed to be kept outside. I rested my hands on the steering wheel, still, calm, because I had learned a long time ago. Pain doesn't always need noise. Sometimes it just sits quietly with you. I raised my son alone. No help, no support, no second chances. His father left before he was even born. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. And from that moment it was just the two of us. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I skipped meals so he could eat. I wore the same shoes for years so he could have new ones for school. I never complained, because every time he smiled it felt worth it. Every time he said, "Mom, look what I did," it gave me strength I didn't know I had. He was my world, my purpose, my reason to keep going, even on the days I felt like I had nothing left. And I truly believed, that one day when he grew up, he would remember, not the struggles, but the love. But somewhere along the way things changed. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. It was slow, subtle, like a door quietly closing. He got a good job, moved to a better part of the city, started meeting new people. People with money, with status, with polished lives. I was happy for him, proud even. But when I visited, I noticed something. He spoke differently, acted differently. He corrected the way I talked, the way I dressed, even the way I laughed. "Mom, maybe don't say that," he'd whisper. Or, "Mom, just let me handle it." First, I thought he was just trying to help. But then the visits became shorter. The calls became fewer. And eventually, he stopped inviting me to things. Work events, dinner parties. And then, when he told me he was getting married, I found out through a message. A message that felt more like an announcement than a conversation. Still, I was happy, because he sounded happy. And that was enough for me. Or at least, I told myself it was. I remember the first time I met her, his fiancée. She was polite, smiling, but distant. Her family was not. They were refined, measured. Every word felt calculated. Her mother looked at me like she was trying to place me somewhere appropriate, somewhere lower. They asked what I did. I told them. I didn't lie. I never have. And the silence that followed said everything. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. But it was there. And my son noticed. But instead of standing beside me, he shifted away. Just slightly. Just enough. Back in my car. I watched guests walk inside, one by one, laughing, celebrating. And for a moment, I allowed myself to wonder, what exactly was I to him now? A memory? An obligation? Or something he needed to hide to fit into his new life? I didn't cry. Not yet. Because something inside me stayed steady. Like it was waiting. For something I didn't fully understand. A man approached my car. I noticed him earlier. He stood near the entrance. Not quite fitting in. Observing more than participating. He knocked gently on my window. I hesitated. Then rolled it down slightly. Are you all right? He asked. His voice was calm. Kind. I nodded. I'm fine. He glanced toward the venue. Then back at me. You're here for the wedding. It wasn't a question. Yes. And you're not going in. I gave a small smile. No. He studied my face like he was trying to read something deeper. I've seen a lot of weddings, he said softly. But I've never seen a mother sit outside like this. There was no judgment in his voice. Just curiosity. I was asked not to come, I replied. He paused. And for a moment something in his expression shifted. Not pity. Something else. Understanding maybe. I don't think the full story is being told in there, he said. I didn't respond. Because he was right. But not in the way he thought. Inside the ceremony began. I could see it through the tall glass windows. Blurry. Distant. But enough. The music started. Guests stood. And then my son walked into view. In a suit. Standing tall. Confident. Happy. He looked perfect. Like everything I had worked for had finally come together. And yet, I wasn't part of it. I leaned back in my seat. Closed my eyes for a moment. And let the sound of distant applause reach me. Like an echo from a life I used to belong to. Time passed. I didn't check the clock. I didn't need to. I could feel it. The ceremony ended. The reception began. Lights grew warmer. Music grew louder. And laughter filled the air once again. Then, something changed. I saw movement inside. A gathering. People turning toward the stage. A projector screen came down. I frowned slightly. That wasn't part of what my son had told me. The man outside my car noticed it too. That's not on the schedule, he murmured. I looked at him. You know the schedule? He gave a small smile. I helped organize the event. I blinked. Something shifted. Inside the lights dimmed. The screen flickered. And a video began. First it was normal. Photos of my son growing up. Baby pictures. School memories. Moments of laughter. The crowd smiled. Some even laughed. And then, the images changed. The tone shifted. The pictures weren't polished anymore. They were real. Unfiltered. Photos I recognized. Because I had taken them. Moments from our small apartment. Birthdays with homemade cakes. Late nights when he fell asleep on my shoulder. Moments no one else had seen. The room grew quiet. Confused. And then a voice played. My voice. Old recordings. Soft. Tired. But full of love. Encouraging him. Comforting him. Telling him, I'm here. The guests looked around. Whispers started. My son stood frozen. And I sat in my car. Staring at the screen through the glass. My heart slowly tightening. The man beside my car spoke again. That video wasn't submitted by the couple. I looked at him. Then who? I think, he said gently, someone wanted the truth to be seen. Inside the video ended. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. And then the microphone turned on. A voice spoke. Calm. Clear. My apologies for the interruption. It was the event coordinator. But before we continue, there's something that needs to be acknowledged. My son stepped forward. Confused. Tense. What is this? He asked. No one answered him directly. Because at that moment, the doors of the venue slowly opened. And for the first time that day, everyone turned toward me. I didn't rush. I didn't hesitate. I stepped out of my car, smoothed my dress, and walked across the street. Each step steady, measured. The man beside me didn't follow. He just watched, like he already knew. This wasn't his moment. The room was silent as I entered. Every eye on me. Not judging anymore. Just watching. Trying to understand. I walked forward. Toward the stage. Toward my son. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Not as an inconvenience. Not as something to hide. but as something real, something undeniable. I took the microphone. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't break. I didn't come here to cause a scene, I said. Soft, clear. I wasn't even going to come inside. A pause. I was asked not to. A ripple moved through the crowd. I continued, but I watched from outside. Another pause. And I saw something beautiful. I looked at my son. You built a life. A good one. I smiled slightly. And I'm proud of you. His eyes filled just a little. I didn't come here to take anything away from today, I said. Only to remind you, and maybe everyone here. I let the silence settle. That no matter how far we go, no matter how much we change, we don't erase where we came from. I placed the microphone back on the stand. I wish you happiness, I said softly. And I hope one day, you'll understand what love really looks like. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't wait for a reaction. I turned and walked away, the same way I had walked my entire life, with quiet strength, with dignity, with nothing to prove. Behind me, I heard movement, footsteps, fast. Mom! I stopped, but I didn't turn right away. Mom, wait. I turned slowly. He stood there, not the confident man from earlier, but the boy I remembered, lost, unsure. I'm sorry, he said, and this time, it wasn't quiet. It wasn't hidden. It was real. And for the first time that day, I felt something shift. Not pain, not anger, just truth. I didn't rush to hug him. I didn't cry. I just looked at him and nodded, because sometimes forgiveness doesn't need words, just needs honesty. As I walked away from the venue, the lights behind me glowed softer. The music resumed, but something had changed, not just for him, for everyone who witnessed it, because respect isn't something you demand, something you live, quietly, consistently, even when no one is watching. That night, I drove home alone, but I didn't feel alone, because I knew something important. I hadn't lost my son. He had just lost his way for a moment. And sometimes, it takes truth to bring people back. If this story resonated with you, let me know where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.